I'm Lillian McCullough, and welcome to Teen Talk. I have with me today Reagan Fredericks. Reagan, would you share your story with us?
Yeah, so today I'm focusing on the mental health of athletes, student athletes in particular. And so I play soccer and softball, and I've played softball since I was in first grade. So it's a family sport.
Yeah.
My dad really loves softball, so I played for the school 7th, 8th, and then my 9th grade year, which is a high school. And I didn't have a great experience with it. The coaches were not the greatest to me. The team dynamic was not great. There was some bullying going on the team. Like, I showed up to school one day and they said, "You're only on the varsity team because your dad's a coach." So those kind of things were really rough for me, and it kind of took me into a downward spiral. I lost my love for the game that season. The coaches, I couldn't perform around them. My anxiety was so high. They were just playing mental games with me. It was really bad. I came home and cried every day after school. And then I'm also on a travel team, so I played travel ball that year, and I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it at all. I didn't want to play softball anymore. I was done with it. My parents, they didn't have the same dynamic with that. They wanted me to still play. They said it was all in my head. So it was a really challenging time. And so that was that summer. It came into the fall of my sophomore year. Soccer was going on. And then they were pressuring me with playing travel softball that fall, and I didn't want to do it. It was too much with soccer, and I was really stressed out, and I stopped eating. I can't really explain why. It was just something in my head, which they haven't really figured out either, but I stopped eating for a brief period of time, but with soccer, I had to eat, so I wasn't getting enough energy, so I continued to eat. Things with my parents got really rough, arguments. So then soccer kind of died off, and then it came if you were gonna play for the high school team, you had winter workouts, so that came around, and I wanted nothing to do with them. I knew I didn't want to be on the team, but my parents didn't have that same enthusiasm, I guess I should say. So I didn't go to workouts. My parents were not happy. There was a lot of pressure. There was a lot of frustration. So the winter goes by, and then comes, I think it was February, because that's when signups came around. And they had been building a lot of pressure on me to make a decision, which they knew. I had made it clear to them all winter I was not playing high school softball. So then the day of signups came around, and I didn't sign up. I cried that day because I had all the stress, because I knew that I wasn't going to play, but my parents, I felt like I was letting everyone down in the family, because it was something so important to the whole family, not just me. It had become our whole family's happiness. So I didn't sign up, and that day was just really anxiety high for me. So I get in the truck after school, because my dad picks me up and he goes, "Did you sign up for softball?" I said no, and he didn't talk to me. He slammed the door when we got home. He went out on the sun porch. He didn't talk to me all night. I took a nap because that was the only way to relieve my stress that night. And then that night goes by, Saturday morning comes around. My dad was gone. He had a funeral to attend, and then he went out to a bar the day, that afternoon. He didn't come home until 5 o'clock that night. My mom wouldn't talk to me all day. We kind of got into an argument, and I kind of was just not kicked out, but told to leave the house for the time being. So I went on a walk with a friend. I went to an adult, a trusted adult's house, and we just talked, because I was just really stressed out. And I had to do some stuff for school the afternoon, so I went to that. So that day happened. It was a really rough time. I felt like a failure. I felt like I had let everyone down. It was a lot of emotions and a lot of pressure. And that's when my mental health went down a lot. I stopped eating in general. I didn't really want to be alive, because I felt like my family hated me. I hated myself. I knew that it was a decision for me in my heart, but I still hated myself. So there was about a month I didn't eat. I ate the bare minimum. And then there was times where I didn't eat at all because I just didn't have the desire to. So someone notified the school about me not eating, and then they brought in my parents, who then sat down with guidance. They had a discussion. I was sent to the nurse to be checked out for like health wise. So then my parents were on my tail. They were making sure they would make me sit at the table and eat. They did care about me deep down, but it was hard to grasp that concept. So I was frustrated because I was at the point where I didn't want to be alive, and eating was something like I could control how much I wanted to eat and how much I didn't until my parents were involved. So then the next step for me was I need pain, like that pain that I was feeling because I wasn't eating. Well, I didn't have that anymore and I needed something more. So my next step was self-harm. I went to my mom's sewing kit and found a sewing pin, and late into the night I would just cut my arm with a sewing pin. It was something with the blood and like the pain, like the physical pain, it helped. But then it was hiding it from everyone was the hardest part, because I'm not someone who's good at keeping stuff in. So it was hard to not tell someone because I knew that there was a problem and I knew I needed help, but I just didn't want the help because I didn't want to be alive. So a friend found out, and in a challenging way, and I knew that that was kind of over because they were gonna share. I was hoping they didn't, but out of concern they went to guidance, and guidance called me down. I had a panic attack because I knew I was losing control again. And I was scared of what my parents were gonna do, if they were gonna yell, or if I was just really scared. So guidance called me down. They had to talk with me. I had to show them what was going on. They said, I wanna call, it's mandatory reporting, I have to call your parents, and I'm like, let me talk to them first. So guidance did call my mom and told her the basic overview, Reagan's been doing some stuff to herself, I'll let you tell her the rest, but I just had to mandatory report the baseline because she requested that you talk. I was scared to go home that day. Even though I wasn't enjoying softball at that point, I convinced my dad to take me to a coming college softball game, so I didn't have to go home. And then to even prevent it further, I convinced him to take me to the high school softball game just so I didn't have to go home, because I knew he would enjoy those things and I just didn't want to go home. So eventually I went home, and my mom was upstairs, and I kind of walked up there just doing my stuff, and she says, come into my room. And she was crying, and she was scared, and she was also not angry but frustrated. She's like, why are you doing this? And I'm like, because I don't want to be alive. So everything that I could harm myself with was taken out of my control, but what my parents didn't know is I had a bottle of ibuprofen hidden in my room, and I had made a letter to address to my family, and I was gonna end it. I was gonna kill myself by overdosing. So I didn't have an exact date when, I just knew when it was the right moment I was gonna do it. So the school week goes on, they bring in a resource officer from a suicide helpline. They evaluate me, they determine I'm a high risk for suicide, and they send me to my family doctor to determine what the next step is for me. So I go to my family doctor, she evaluates me, she puts me on antidepressant medication, and she says, I don't want to put you into a psychiatric facility right now, I just want to see how the meds and counseling go. So the meds weren't kicking in, I was getting worse, I just wanted to be dead so bad. It was really bad. There was lots of arguments breaking out because I was very emotional, because I was not my parents were trying to help and I just didn't want their help. So it was very intense. There was a day where I was like, take me to the emergency room because I know I'm gonna do something if you don't. So my mom takes me down to the emergency room. I'm crying, trying to explain to the nurse at the front desk, why I'm here. So we're sitting in the waiting room, they take me back into this room, they make me change. I have cloth scrubs on and socks. My phone, jewelry, anything that I can like harm myself with get taken away, and I'm put in this room. There's a steel wall, the bed's right here, there's a TV and a plastic chair, and there's a window right at the end of my bed where a nurse had to sit at all times and look at me, like observe me. I couldn't use the restroom without the door being cracked open. They had to do lots of tests, they did lots of blood work. I dropped a lot of weight, I think it was 30 pounds throughout the whole process. So they did tests on that. I had to do a telehealth visit with, I think it was a psychiatrist down at Danville. And she's like, I want to admit, like, cause I went down there voluntarily. She's like, I want you to voluntarily admit yourself into a psychiatric facility. And I wasn't ready to hear that. Like, I knew I needed the help, but I wasn't ready. So I just started panicking and I wanted to go home at that moment. So the doctor comes in after that and he has the paperwork and he's like, okay, we're gonna fill this out. My mom's like, I don't wanna fill it out without her dad being here. And like, my mom didn't get to talk to the psychiatrist. So she's like, I wanna talk to the psychiatrist. So after some time, they get the psychiatrist back on, it's like 11 o'clock at night now. They get the psychiatrist back on the telehealth like screen and they're talking and my mom's really scared at this point. And I feel a lot of bad emotions. Like, I feel guilty for doing this, but my mom talks to her and stuff and they get some stuff figured out. They decided that they were gonna reevaluate me in the morning after we all get some sleep and calm down and my dad's in the like presence. So we go to sleep. My mom, she just could not sleep and it was so hard for me because I couldn't sleep knowing that she couldn't sleep. So the morning comes, they wake me up really early with breakfast and stuff. My dad comes down and then they bring in another doctor on telehealth and my parents are in the room for that one. And we're talking as a family and I knew deep down that I had to go somewhere to get help, but I didn't want to. So I was like, I think I can be safe at home as long as we safeguard the whole house and stuff. So after making a safety plan, they released me from the hospital. And this is actually a little bit, like, to lighten the mood a little bit. So I had an IV in my arm all night. They removed the IV from my arm and they burst a vein and blood just went everywhere and I was scared. But I guess it wasn't to lighten the mood a little. It's a little bit of a sidetrack. But so life continues going and we're starting to see some improvement. The meds are kicking in, counseling's helping. Things are getting better. And then things got a little bit worse again. I was starting to feel like the lows again. So I started calling psychiatric facilities on my own because I was planning on voluntarily admitting myself. I somehow ended up not doing that. I don't know why. I didn't do it, but I got better. And by that point it was the end of the year, so summer hit, I had that whole break. I could really just like rest, recover, focus on starting new. Soccer was a big influence for me because I wanted to play, because I love soccer. But so that summer I played travel ball. So we're now in this past summer. So I played travel ball that summer. I really bonded with the girls. I shared my story with them. I really bonded with them and it was a great season. I had a really good experience with it and it really made me enjoy softball again. So then the summer comes to a close, soccer begins, and we're like currently in the present, so like September, October. So I was playing soccer, living my best life, having fun with my teammates, and then school comes around. So this year I'm taking 3 AP courses, honors Spanish 4, trigonometry, and then advanced journalism. So the workloads that follow with those classes is a lot. And balancing sports and school is very challenging. So like a regular practice runs from 4:30 to 6:30. No, 4 to 6. And then, so I come home, because sometimes I'm just so tired, I don't have the energy to put my effort into it. So if I put like a full effort, I'd be doing 3 hours of schoolwork, if not maybe like 1.5, 2 hours. So that was a lot. And then like getting to bed 10:30, 11 o'clock each night, because I had to shower, eat dinner. I didn't get to socialize with my family a lot because my family and we are on good terms now. We've made a lot of progress like as a family, but so that's challenging. And then like games we have, like nights we have games, we can get home at like 9:30, 10 o'clock and still have homework. And I feel like that's a stressful aspect for student athletes too, because like the balance is hard for them to figure out. And like I know for me, I stress out when I know I'm not going to get enough sleep at night because I know how tired I'll be the next day. So just trying to manage all that schoolwork is very challenging sometimes. And then I feel like another aspect that student athletes struggle with is how hard they are on themselves. Like sometimes student athletes can be their own worst critic, and sometimes the parents or the coaches don't even play a role into that, because I know there's times where I've played like a really good game and I made like one small mistake and I'll come home and just like think about it, like my brain doesn't allow me to not think about it. So that's hard because I feel like there's some people, like I eventually move on, but I know there's some student athletes who can't move on and their confidence gets broken down and they fall into this pit that's so hard to bring themselves out of because they just feel like a failure and they just don't know what to do. And I know like that can carry into their practices and the games that follow that because they don't know how to get out of it themselves. So I feel like that's definitely a big aspect of it too.
I just want to start off by giving you a hug and thanking you for sharing this, because I'm really proud of you.
Thank you so much.
So you're not doing school softball this year, right?
Yes.
You did school soccer.
School soccer, yes.
Okay. So that was a good experience for you with soccer. The season's over now, right?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yes. Do you feel like during the season, obviously stress levels were high because you have like a lot of work with school and then a lot of work with games. Do you feel like at the end of the season, like you were sad that it was over, but also like kind of like a weight off of your shoulders now that you have like more time to focus on school?
Yeah, it was very sad the night we lost because that was the last time I get to play with those seniors. And those seniors were like the team I developed. Like when I first decided to come back to soccer in 7th grade, those are the girls I played with. They were the ones who supported me, who built me up, who watched me become the person, like the goalkeeper I am today. So it was very sad, but at the same time I was kind of happy because I know I'd be able to put my all into my schoolwork, and because I wanted to get good grades. So I know that have the time and no excuses why I shouldn't be giving everything I have to school.
Right. You obviously said you have a very good dynamic with this soccer team. You've known them forever. Do you think that there was a difference from having that, like obviously you love both sports, right? Do you think that there was a difference to the reason why you started like leaning away from softball was because of the team dynamic?
Absolutely. The team dynamic is a big factor for me when it comes to teams, like a sports team overall. It's hard to spend every day, like 2+ hours a day with a team that you don't get along with, or that's really divided. And like say you have the varsity, like when my freshman year of softball, it was the varsity starters that were like a cliche, like a group. And if they didn't like you or they didn't think you were good enough, you were pushed away. Even if you were on the varsity team, they excluded you, they made fun of you, they did all these awful things. The soccer team is united as one family, and we just all have a great dynamic with each other because we all want to achieve the same goal of making it to districts. And I think softball, it's more individual centered. Like, yeah, you need to work as a team to get to districts, but at the same time, softball players, like, they kind of play for themselves. But soccer, like, they understand that you have to play as a unit or you're not going to make a goal or you're not going to win a game.
Right. And what would you say is the biggest difference between the coaches from softball, where you said like there was not like help, there wasn't like support from the coaches in soccer? What's like the big difference between the two?
The big difference between the two is our coach for soccer, he's honest sometimes a little too honest, but it's constructive criticism. And there was a time where he got a little bit upset. He raised his tone, he raised his voice after one of our losses. And we all took it hard because we knew we should have played better. We knew we should have won the game. Some parents weren't a fan of that, so they went to our school board about it, and he had a week suspension. And but before he got his suspension, the next practice, he brought us into a huddle. He apologized for what he did. He just said he knows how good we are. So I feel like the difference between him and then my softball coaches were, he cares about each player individually. He gets to know us on a personal level. He wants to see us all thrive individually. But he also cares about our team dynamic, and he makes sure we do team bonding activities. He wants us to be united, but he also cares about the team and the outcome of the team because he wants to see us go far as a team. He's a tough coach, and he's gonna provide constructive criticism, but not in a way to be mean, in a way to better you. Like, there was a time in practice, so I struggle with my goal kicks as a goalkeeper, and he knows that, and we were passing the ball around a triangle, and he goes, "Reagan, your passes go farther than your goal kicks." So, like, he can have those kind of joking encounters with us, and we know that, like, we don't take it personally because we just know that's the kind of coach he is. But, like, when I think back to my experiences with my high school softball coaches in my 9th grade year, those coaches, they had a lot of favoritism, and that's where the teen cliche, like, those girls were their favorites. They put a lot of attention into them. They just focused on them. The rest of the teammates, they wouldn't really talk to us unless it was to criticize us, and it wasn't like a criticism in a way to better us, like a constructive criticism. It was like, at least how I took it, it was to like screw with our heads, because like there was one coach who would try to constantly change how I batted. There was one coach who tried to constantly change how I played the field, and if you didn't play, which playing time wasn't a factor for me, but if you didn't play, they wouldn't explain to you why. Like my sophomore year of soccer, I wasn't the varsity goalkeeper, I was on JV, but there was a game where we were winning by a lot, and our coach was subbing girls back in and out, like taking our varsity off the field, putting our JV girls onto the field, and he didn't put me in. So the next day at practice, he comes over and he apologizes to me and said I should have put you in and stuff. So I feel like the conversational aspect of it, our coaches for softball weren't good at that. They didn't have those conversations with players that they should have, and they were more of the players' friends than they were their coaches. Like they wanted to be there and have fun with the girls that they wanted to, but they didn't want to be a coach. Our soccer coach, he isn't there to be our friend. He's there to be our coach and to build us up and better us, not as only athletes but as individuals, like humans. So, and I know there was a time, like it was towards the end of my freshman softball season, and I just wanted to have a sit-down one-on-one talk with my head coach. So I wrote up a thing because I'm someone who's good at having like it all present like in front of me.
Right.
So I made her a copy, I made a copy for me, we went through it, and she's like, "I'm sorry, like, there's nothing really I can do to help you with your confidence. You just gotta keep getting better," or something. I don't even remember, but it was hard because she didn't really address any of the other concerns in it, as I can assume that my soccer coach would have.
Right. And I think that's a big thing that like having for you specifically.
Yeah.
You go to a sport because you like it and you love it and you want to do it, and if you don't have that support system from the coaches themselves, who are pretty much like the parents of your second family, then you're not gonna want to do that sport again. And I think that I really am proud of those coaches of your soccer team that are very supportive, and I'm proud of the seniors that are building you up, because it took a lot for you to come back to soccer. And do you know why you wanted to come back, or did you just? So
I played ASO from when I was 4 years old up until 5th grade. 5th grade was when my dad took the next step and got me onto a travel softball team. And I had to drop soccer because I had to focus on softball. So I played travel softball spring and summer of 5th grade, fall of 6th grade, winter of 6th grade, summer of 6th grade. Into my 7th grade year, I was still playing travel softball. And I was hanging out with a friend who was on an FC Montour soccer team. And she's like, yeah, we need a goalie and stuff. And she was telling me all these great things about soccer. And I was like, I miss this. Like, if I could just play goalie, I think I'd really enjoy it. So then it went into the process. I wanted to play. I found out they needed a goalie for their indoor season. So that friend gave me the contact information for their assistant coach. My mom contacted him. He then put me to Mrs. Bennett. So I went to her, and then she put me to the head coach of the FC Montour team. So I contacted him. He's like, oh, absolutely, we could use a goalie. So they brought me on. They had 2 teams that winter, and the one team was built up of mostly my current class with a couple seniors, and the other team was built up of mostly the current seniors. So I was put on that team, which was very nerve-wracking because I didn't know any of them. So, but they were just also supportive. They were kind. The coach was very kind and supportive. It was a welcoming environment, which made me stick around even though I wasn't the greatest. They just kept encouraging me, and that's why I'm still playing now.
Well, I'm glad that you stuck with it, because it seems like you really like it.
Yeah.
And when your mental health was really bad, you kind of just like didn't feel like doing anything, which I just got out of my slump where I didn't want to do stuff where I love. And I talked with someone. I didn't know that I didn't want to do stuff.
Yeah.
And my mom messaged me, and I'm really glad that she did. And she said that I said, I don't want to go to color guard and I don't want to go to dance. And she said, you've been saying this for a few weeks. Is everything okay? And then I thought about it for a while, because this was like 2 weeks ago this happened. But my freshman year, when my mental health was really bad, before I even knew I had anxiety, it got really bad where I didn't want to do anything, and I didn't tell anyone, and I didn't get help, and I started becoming a little suicidal. So I was very glad that my mom told me this time, but then I realized that I got scared because I didn't want it to happen again. So I ended up breaking down in my choir teacher's office. But she's so amazing that she helped. She told me that you need to try something different this week. You need to hang out with some friends. You need to just do something that isn't normal. And I think I put that together, that because our schedules are so tight during sports seasons, like for you have school from 8 till 3:30, then you go to soccer from 4 to 6, sometimes you have a game until 9, then you do homework, and then it's the same thing the next day, and the same thing the next day, and then it keeps going. For me, I have school, and then I have either color guard a day, or I have dance, and I have to teach, and then I don't get home until late, and then I have to do school. It's just repetitive. So I think that I'm pretty sure most people have gone through that thing where they just don't want to do it. They're just tired. So I think that it's a good idea to try and do something different.
Definitely.
To bring your love back for the sport, because you love it so much. Obviously, you wouldn't be doing it if you didn't. And I think that it's a good idea to try and do something different. Like, I went and I had a sleepover with my best friend, and then I went and I got ice cream with another friend. And I think yours was more severe, obviously, but being able to go back on that travel team, and you got to hang out with those people that built you up, and you did something different, and you were in a different dynamic, I think brought back your love for sports, which made you want to continue it this year.
And I definitely believe that burnout is real, and there might, say you're on a great team with a great dynamic, you can still get burnout because it's a lot. It's a lot doing it every day for so many months. but definitely doing things for yourself during that time, like on the weekends, if you don't have something going on, definitely do something that you enjoy, like whether that's hanging out with friends, whether that's like whatever it is, just make sure you incorporate time for yourself, as hard as it is, because that's what helped me not get extremely burnt out this season, was because I was doing things that I love for myself to also like balance out the equation.
Right. And I want to go back to school.
Okay.
So you this year, you're taking 3 APs, a lot of really hard classes,
Yeah.
which props to you. Which I think is a hard choice for student athletes, because a lot of our athletes that do all of our sports are so incredibly smart. And I think it's a hard balance where you want to do these sports, but you have to decide like what classes you want to do. And for me this year, I sat down with our guidance counselor and I said, I don't know how, like last year I took 2 APs and a lot of hard classes. I said, I don't think I can do that again. What should I do? She asked me what I wanted to do after high school, and I said, well, I want to go into the medical field. And she said, well, you don't need to take these AP Englishes, these AP classes, try and go with your AP Sciences. And I said, oh, I never thought about that. So I ended up not taking an AP in the English class, which really relieved a lot of stress for me. So do you think that more students need to like think about like putting their time wisely if they want to do these sports?
Yeah, definitely. So like you said, a lot of our student athletes, like especially here at Montoursville, are high academically achieving students. And I know for me, coming into high school, I knew that there was all these APs, and I knew I just wanted to take them because I wanted to build up my college resume. I wanted it to look good. But I never went in with the mindset of thinking like, what if I figure out what I want to do after high school, like what I want to go to college for, and then base my course load off of that.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of students, if they would focus on that aspect of it, maybe they wouldn't be in all these high academic classes, but they'd have what they need for the future, which would probably alleviate some stress, but also it would keep up their high academic success.
Right. And I think another big thing that people are very worried about, especially at our school, is class rank.
Oh, 100%.
Because our school is very competitive, which is great because we're all very smart. We always leave. Most of us go to college or we go into the workforce. But class rank, I think it's a good thing for people to see, but at the same time, you don't want it to define you, because if you're, let's say you're first in the class versus 32nd in the class, in 10 years it's not going to matter.
Exactly.
You're both going to get into the same college, you're both going to get the same degree. It doesn't matter. Will you probably get some more scholarships if you're super smart? Most likely.
Yeah.
But you're going to end up doing the same thing. It just, you need to focus on yourself, and that number doesn't define you. It's all the other things that you do, which is something that I had to realize a few years ago, is that yes, I'm very smart, but that's not what defines me. It's these other things that I'm doing.
Exactly.
And I need to make sure that I myself am okay before I'm going to do all of these other things.
Exactly. So yeah, class rank. A lot of the the 2025 class, 2026 class, and the 2027 class. I'm not sure about the freshman class, but I can assume it's the same trend. They have incredibly intelligent students, and the class rank is very competitive. Like for me, I have a 97 average, and I'm 27th in the class.
Right.
So that just shows like, and those ranks, they don't define you. I think what's more important is your GPA. The only thing that I think concerns me with class rank is National Honor Society, which I think I can argue a little bit that is it the top 20% of the class?
I think so.
I don't agree with that rule. Like, yeah, I agree, like it's to keep numbers limited, but at the same time, some students, like there could be, say there's a student with, say there's, like they take the 30th ranked student and they exclude the 31st. Say that 30th student has a 96 average and so does the 31st student.
Right.
Well, that student doesn't make it, but they met all the other requirements. So I feel like that's why class rank was such a big stressor for me my freshman year, was because I had that big goal of getting in a National Honor Society. But you said how like rank doesn't define you as a person. I also want to say that sports don't define you as a person either, because I feel like a lot of athletes also they get so into their sport that when they don't, like if they decide not to play their sport into college or after high school, or if they get injured and they can't play their sport for the rest of their career, they get really bad because that's all they know. Like, they know that this sport is who they are, but a sport does not define you as a person. Nothing really does. Academics, class rank, sports, etc. Nothing defines you as a person. The only thing that defines you as a person is who you are on the inside. Your personality and just who you are on the inside is what really matters.
Right. And what would you say to an athlete out there that is struggling, they're losing their love for the sport, they aren't really wanting to do anything, they're getting in that slump? What would you say to them?
I would say that you're not alone, that there's help and there's resources out there. You just gotta, as hard as it is to ask for help, that there are so many resources and so much help out there that want to help you and want to help you get better. You're not alone. Your sport doesn't define you as a person. That you only get a certain amount of years to play the sport. So play your sport because you love it, and do it for you, not for anyone else, because
it's your life.
Because it's your life, and it's your it's your privilege. It's a privilege to play the sport. It shouldn't be a force.
Right. And then I like to end every episode with a inspirational quote from my guest. So Reagan, what would your inspirational quote be?
So my inspirational quote would be, you'll find purpose in the pain. That no matter how dark it gets, no matter how hard things seem like they might be, it will get better, and that there's always going to be purpose for the pain, as hard as it seems right now. When you make it out of the slump and you reflect on it, you'll find some kind of purpose.
Thank you, Reagan, for sharing your story. I really appreciate you coming here today. And that ends this episode of Teen Talk. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.